everyone. I hope everyone is well today. Welcome to my video. Today I felt like just kind of talking about my perspective on this subject. And the subject is God or Goddess given gifts and spiritual powers. Hello and welcome, everyone. Just doing one thing and then I will. My perspective on. Sorry. All right, excuse me. So yeah, um, obviously this comes from a pagan and polytheist point of view, but I have been reading for people for a long time now, and something I've noticed, because the question of what abilities people have comes up, and I've also just noticed for myself that people have a variety of gifts and abilities given to them by a higher power of some kind, for the sake of brevity, a god or goddess. Examples being like Athena, uh, Aphrodite, Ares, Isis, etc., so on, from any pantheon anywhere in the world. And it's always an interesting thing that comes up because these are gifts that have been given by higher power. It is usually they're things that are meant to be used in order to further that deity's will for the world, or to act on their behalf. So when you have these abilities, not only do you have this special gift that not everyone can do, but it usually comes with, for lack of a better term, like a mission or something that it's intended to be used for. Although you can use it for yourself as well, depending on the ability. So, just thinking of where I want to start. So, one of the things I come across the most often are oracles. So, being an oracle is someone who has been gifted that power by a deity, and it's kind of like similar to being a seer and a normal psychic ability, but it's been gifted by a higher power. So when you use the oracle ability, you are using that deity's energy and power to see. And typically, this is definitely an ability that's meant to be used on their behalf, and sometimes you don't really control when it happens. And there are a lot of different ways that it can be experienced. So, yes, sometimes it involves seeing the future or having visions of someone's future or their potential. Typically, oracles are meant to give messages to specific people or to people around them. So sometimes it's about the future, or it could be warnings, it could be advice, it could be a variety of different things. And there's a few sure signs in a person's energy that they are an oracle. I know I've come across one, or that I need to kind of dig deeper. In an oracle's energy, they have the open third eye ear, but they also have an open eye in the palm of each hand. Um, so this may not show up in a physical way, but at least spiritually, there's a tendency to protect or close the hands. Um, what else? Frequently, an oracle can be dormant, and so in the energy, the eyes would be empty or closed. When an oracle is active and has the power of the deity in them, the eyes have a light in them, and they could be a variety of different colors. So there's that. Just kind of gathering my thoughts. Dormant means they're not currently connected to their deity, and it can either be because they no longer serve that deity, or they're just dormant because it's not necessary for them to be active. And I've come across a few, and for those who want to reopen their oracular ability, they just need to ask the God who gave that ability to them in the first place to be allowed to serve and be opened again and to receive that power. Or sometimes they will need to find a new deity to grant them that power again. So I'm trying to think of how to describe that a little more. So if you are an oracle, you may find that you are very pulled to spirituality in the first place. Big surprise. Depending on the type, you may not be, because there's a lot of different ways they can function. You may just have the compulsion to say certain things to when you encounter a person or to someone you know. You may feel compelled. You may receive visions when you touch someone, whether it's a stranger or someone you know, or even touching objects or places. You may experience very strong instincts and feel called to share certain information that maybe you're not sure where it's coming from, or you don't even know what you're about to say. And sometimes you forget what you've said after you've said it. So there is that. I do see the comments. I will asking how to figure that out. So how do I find out who to ask? I assume you mean like which deity to ask. That can be a bit tricky. Typically, there are signs in our lives of that deity. Once you know who it is, it can become obvious what those signs are, but it can be a bit hard to nail down a specific entity. To do it on your own, I encourage you to do a ton of research about as many deities as you can, and depend on your own sense of what feels true to figure out which one, and to look for signs, things that are associated to that deity showing up in your life in important ways. You can also just kind of put the intention out there for them to reveal themselves to you in some way, and then pay attention to any signs that present themselves. Of course, you can always get a reading as well. Alright, so that is about oracles. I find them fascinating because it's not just one thing. Again, you could be telling people about the future, or pointing them down the right path, or giving them warnings, or other kinds of information. So it's a bit open-ended. You're a seer for a god or goddess. The next kind of ability, divine gift I would like to talk about, are muses. They are real. There's the capital M muses, the 9 great muses of Greece, who are goddesses in their own right. And then there are lowercase muses, and each deity has their own. Um, Someone asked, do you have to know which deities, or can you just do the work? It is not strictly speaking necessary to know who it is on whose behalf you are acting as an oracle. You can just do the work if you're comfortable doing that. Yeah. All right. So muses. People who are muses for the gods and goddesses are people who have a special ability to inspire those around them, or sometimes even large masses of people. Again, the way you inspire others and what you inspire in them is based on what deity you're connected to and who has gifted you that ability. So, for example, if you were a muse for the god Apollo, you would probably have a natural penchant for inspiring others through music, poetry, or good acts by being a good person, inspiring others to be a good person, to be disciplined and reach for their best selves, and to get their lives together, and such like that. If you were a muse for Dionysus, you would have a natural ability to inspire others to have a really good time and to do things that are pleasurable and to lower their inhibitions. Someone asked how to know your abilities or which one you are. You kind of have to so you can either see a reader who can help you discover that, and that is something I do for people. It's kind of where the topic comes from because I have done that so many times. But you can also search within yourself and get in tune with what your own abilities are. I know it's a lot of work, but so it is. If you want to do it on your own, it is a lot of work. As someone who has had to search out their abilities for themselves, you just have to go through the process and tune into your deeper knowing to figure that out. And look at your life. Especially divine abilities or things that just kind of happen. We could kind of pass them off as just being natural abilities, or someone's really charismatic and people just seem to have an effect on people. Things like that. Keep your eye open and really critically look back over your life and what just seems to come naturally to you in really big ways that other people can't. It might be divinely inspired. So that is a muse. And typically there are a variety of ways available to the muse of inspiring others, and methods that they prefer, such as performance or by example, or pretty much any way that you can imagine. But there will probably be a few ways that that individual favors, or that's more naturally conducive to what it is they are meant to inspire in others. And the thing you can inspire in others could be, again, literally any kind of trait. Muses tend to be very attractive, charismatic, charming, and again, they just have a way with people, or an effect, seemingly. They tend to be noticed wherever they go, even if it's just on a small level in their own circle. All right. The next one is kind of an interesting topic, angels. Angel comes from an ancient Greek word meaning messenger. So all deities have angels, with that understanding of the term. And angels not only deliver messages, but they do a lot of other things on the behalf of the deities they serve. And they do incarnate. So yes, there are angels among us. Um, so angels, as far as what they do for the deity, they can. Sorry, I'm just. An angel is a servant of a specific deity, and it's something they agreed to do because they admire and respect the deity and what that god or goddess represents as a divine archetypal principle and what that means for the world. And so an angel can be assigned pretty much any task you can imagine by a god. So, and the angel is connected to the deity and has the ability to pull on that god's power to use it in service to them. Angels do incarnate. And there are a variety of reasons. An angel might be incarnated on the physical plane, unfortunately, as a punishment or to teach a lesson. So they could be considered fallen, not to be dramatic. Because most of the time there isn't, angels serve more good on the other planes than here. However, angels sometimes are here as a vacation, as a well-deserved break, in order to learn something specific for their own personal growth, or to enrich their ability to work. And sometimes they do incarnate here to actually accomplish a specific task while they are here. And again, the nature of that task can be almost anything. And like oracles and muses, angels are like especially connected to their deity. So the symbols, imagery, and things that are associated to that god will tend to be prominent somehow in that person's life. Someone asks, if anyone is interested in a reading, please visit my page and click on the services tab to see my rates. Otherwise, you can message me directly to arrange a reading. All right. So those are angels. This is a type of angel. There's a type of angel called a Metatron. Well, that's the word I use for it anyway. And that just means the angel that actually speaks for the god. So it's like the top angel, if you will. And sometimes a god can have several. I have not met an incarnated Metatron, so I would say that is pretty unlikely, but you know, the universe is the spiritual world is broad and full of mystery. So I'm not going to discount it. Because of the nature of their position, that's why it's unlikely. It's an individual, it's an angel the god trusts enough to actually speak on their behalf, like to speak their will and so on in the god's place. So very much like their right hand and so on. So that is a thing. I have not met one on this plane as yet, but I'm sure there's at least one somewhere. Carla says it sounds important to connect to the right god. Yeah, if you want to interact with them. You were asking asking if it was important to connect to your deity, or if you could just do the work in relation to being an oracle. You don't have to be consciously aware of who your deity is. It can be useful and enriching to know who they are. And of course, one can find that out on one's own by doing that searching, researching, digging, and reaching out with your intention. And you can ask other gods if you serve them or not, and they will answer truthfully, yes or no. And to trust your own gut feeling of if this is sounds, if it rings true for you or not. So the next kind of divine power and gift is a prophet or prophetess. I like these a lot. There are quite a few of them for different deities. The modern prophet tends to be, they tend to be authors, musicians, artists. Most often they tend to be authors of fictional works. Fictional. So if you've ever read a fictional story that seemed to seem strangely relevant or reflects the spiritual reality that you know, even if it doesn't reflect what has been recorded in myth and legend, you might be reading the work of a prophet. Prophets are inspired by different gods. Sometimes a prophet will belong or be a voice for a specific deity, but more frequently, prophets are kind of open, so any deity can speak through them, and that they can pass on the messages and stories of the divine through their works. So again, because of the modern age, the people who tend to do this the most are people who are engaged in creative works, people who are engaged in storytelling, in whatever form that takes, in whatever way they approach storytelling. So that's the most common, and I've actually not really encountered any prophets outside of those fields of work or hobbies. Even if it's not what someone does professionally, they will tend to write or draw or make music. And a lot of the time, most of the time, the prophet's not aware of it. They're just inspired. They get these ideas from places. They come across things in their lives that kind of come together in their minds and give them these ideas for characters and stories and artworks and so on. And the reality is that it's been influenced and inspired by a greater force in order to put something out into the world for sometimes a specific person to find, or just for it to be available to all and put that message or that story out there. That's another interesting thing. Sometimes prophets create works that are actually intended for specific people to come across certain information or insights, or just the knowledge of the story is important for that individual, for them to go a certain way or fulfill their destiny or something. It's very, personally to me, I find it so fascinating. Another one is like a priest or priestess. And there's not really, because of the lack of like a organized structure of religion, a priest or priestess is usually chosen by the deities themselves directly or by their angels. And a priest or priestess, whether they're a high priest or just a regular priest, they're a facilitator between the divine and those who are seeking the divine. So someone who's a priest or priestess is serving a deity in the capacity of performing their rituals, honoring that deity, and kind of more than anything, helping other people connect with that divine being, and to kind of share with people what this deity is about and how to approach them and interact with them, and kind of initiating them into the ways of that god or goddess. That's kind of what it really ought to be about, is helping others find the god or goddess. Obviously, you could be a priest or priestess of any deity, and there are often a lot of responsibilities or expectations of the way you live your life or things you do, since you are a representative and for lack of a better term, a segue point for people around you to that divine power. It's good to represent them well. Just kind of looking over my list so I don't forget what I wanted to mention. So I'm going to go over the last kind of divine, the way that you could be touched by the divine. All the ones I mentioned so far: oracle, muse, angel, Metatron, prophet, priest. You're gifted with special abilities and powers to be used in service to that deity, and sometimes there can be responsibilities attached, not always, and sometimes you just kind of naturally fulfill them by existing, because it's deeply embedded in you to do so. But you may find that for those of you who choose to seek that deity out and interact and build a relationship with them consciously in this lifetime, that there will be certain things expected of you, or a certain way of being or living your life. Some deities are very hands-off. You do what you do, go with divine flow. Other deities are very hands-on, and some can be very particular, like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. They'll have opinions about things you're doing, and so on. The last one is, for lack of a better term at this time, an agent of providence. And literally any person could be used as an agent of providence, but some people are agents all the time. And providence is kind of like a old world word for divine will, the will of the universe. Well, in the old times it would have been the will of God. So an agent of providence is someone who kind of is, what that means is being at the right place at the right time to do or say the right thing, to facilitate an event or to inspire a person. So you're not like a muse, you just need to do this one thing at this specific moment. And it being an agent of providence is something that happens with ease. And in fact, to really excel at being an agent, you have to really go where you're pulled, allow yourself to be inspired and touched through your intuition, and to kind of live in a way that's not really planned. And your own will isn't directing you and your life, basically. For a deity or several deities, or the will and flow of the universe to direct you to be an agent of punishment or an agent of reward, or just facilitating a moment and doing a necessary action or saying something that needs to be said, you kind of have to be open and just kind of allow yourself to be moved about as a higher will directs you. So there's a real sense of ease and surrender that comes with that. So that is also an interesting thing as well. So those are some of the god or goddess given gifts that I have come across and what that means. And they're pretty interesting. I myself do not have any of these because I don't serve a deity. But that does remind me of a few other things. So without being a servant, you can be gifted other kinds of abilities. When you build relationships with spirits or deities, sometimes they will bless you or they will give you very specific gifts or abilities, depending on who the deity is and what your need is or what you are asking for. So even if you don't worship them, or you're not like, you don't have like this contract to serve with that deity, you can be gifted things just as part of your relationship. And these abilities can be anything. It could be enhancing an ability you already have, like being psychic or being a medium. It could be lending you additional strength, or money's attracted to you, or you have an ability to clear obstacles, or to remove curses. Specific gifts just kind of bequeathed to you as a boon by a deity. Could also be literally any kind of ability or gift or blessing. And of course, this is not really a god or goddess given gift, but this might sound radical, but you could also actually be a god or demigod. I'm not going to bother to define the difference. There are incarnated deities, typically minor or unknown ones. And what that just means is that it's a soul that represents an archetypal force of the world or universe, like time or freedom or hope or qualities like that that maybe we don't think about so often. And these individuals can tend to be powerful, although it may not really be obvious that that's why or in that way. These are people who definitely tend to stand out, at least most of the time. There's one more thing. I'm trying to think of what that was. You know, when you get a thought and it just kind of wisps away. It was only there for a fraction of a second. There are incarnated deities. Oh, another, again, I don't know that I'd call this a gift, but another thing that can occur is that people can be, there are different terms for it, an avatar, or be mounted or ridden by a god or goddess. So you're not an you are not an incarnated god yourself, but a deity is kind of, these are kind of euphemisms for possession light, where they kind of live vicariously through you. And how there's kind of a scale of how far that goes, from just they kind of vicariously enjoy food through you or this or that, and you kind of enjoy their power in return, to you being kind of pushed back and you're not you anymore, you're that deity. This is more common in certain paths and with certain pantheons than others, but it is something that occurs. Again, that too is very interesting. Someone asks, how do you find out what you are? How do you figure out your gifts? This is a good question. All right. So I will start with, by virtue of being human, all humans have some certain abilities, like being psychic, intuitive, all of the clear abilities, mediumship and channeling, and telepathy and empathy. All humans have these, even if they don't believe they do, even if they never open them or explore them or don't even know how, they are there. So I thought I would talk about these gifts because they are things that not everyone has. So to find out what you are and what gifts you have, it's good to start there and kind of develop your gifts, because you can kind of start figuring out what you're capable of. Take your time, exercise good habits, ground every day, clear your energy every day, practice psychic shielding every day. If you want to try to figure this out, you need to take some time, probably not just once, and reflect back over your life. Think over your childhood, your adolescence, and your life after that up to now, and give serious thought to things you are compulsively drawn to. So not necessarily things you liked as a kid or teenager or adult, but things you were just really drawn to. And it could be a time period, a culture, a country, a certain type of archetype or character, or a pantheon, or certain colors or animals, herbs, activities, anything. It could be anything. I would also look at dreams and synchronicities in your life, not just now, but like especially in your childhood, when most of us were like fully ignorant of all this stuff. So things that were very prominent then can be better indicators, just because we had no biases spiritually at the time. Because we didn't know anything, we didn't have any, like if you observe your life now for inclinations, you might be more inclined to look at things that reflect things you're hoping for, or you hope you're this thing, or you hope you're connected to this deity. And sometimes that is the person who is with you, but it may not always be the case. So sometimes the careers you've been drawn to are clues. So you really have to do your research after you take stock of yourself, the hobbies you've had throughout your life, the careers you've been drawn to, the type of people you've been drawn to, colors you're drawn to, animals you're drawn to, not just now. You need to look back through your life, especially your childhood, because that you would have been more likely to actually follow pure inclination and compulsion and what was actually true to your nature, because you hadn't built up all the layers of the person you are in this lifetime yet. So take stock of all that, and then you'll need to do a lot of research. I would start with pantheons that you're interested in or drawn to, and you will have to actually read about each deity, the types of things they're associated to, and start making a list of people, deities you think might be the one, either because you have a feeling about them, or because a lot of the things you've noted about your life are things that are associated to them. So you may be thinking this is a lot of work, and that's because it is. That's how you figure it out for yourself. And honestly, it is a good thing to do. It's how I did it for myself. I did have a teacher, but she made me do it the hard way. She didn't just give me the answer. But you can also seek a psychic reader, or you can divine for yourself if you practice reading, to get clues or to find out the identity of the deity, or to find out what your powers are and what you are, what your role is. Figuring out your exact role, what you are, you still need to kind of take that stock of your life. Because again, those signs will be there if you actually can objectively look at what was going on around you and at who you have been, the things you have done, the way you have affected other people. So you need to introspect a little. Otherwise, I would see a reader. And I am one. You don't have to see me, but I would do that. If you do choose to see a reader, whether it's me or someone else, I would also, no matter what that person says, you need to still check in with yourself if you feel what they say is true. It should feel right to you on a very deep level, like, yes. It's just kind of like the sense of epiphany. Yes, this is me. This feels right. If you have a divine gift, if you are a divine servant, not everyone is, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with not being it. It is a special thing, but it doesn't mean other people are less. It's just you've made a choice to serve a higher power. That is all. And also, whatever they say about who it is that has gifted you this power, you need to tune in and critically ask yourself if that feels right to you. Just because a psychic tells you so doesn't automatically make it the truth. That includes me. I really want to empower people to get in touch with their personal soul truth. In the end, you are the only one that can decide what the truth is and really know deeply for yourself what you are and who you're connected to. Other people can help. A psychic can help point you the way, and sometimes they will tell you the truth. Frequently they will, but you still need to know it for yourself. It's also part of that empowering thing. Even if you turn to a psychic, it's important for you to empower yourself and your ability to know the truth for yourself. So yes, that is how you do it. It is a lot of work, but unless you want to get help from someone else, that is the only way to figure it out for yourself. So I hope that this was just a kind of an interesting discussion. And I was just thinking that I didn't really go over the signs energetically that you'd see in other people. So I'll do that real quick. Oracles, like I said, they have the eyes in their palms and in the forehead. These eyes will also be lit up, so 5 eyes. A muse is a little more abstract. There's not a specific sign for a muse. It's just kind of like this specific feeling. And there's an energy kind of around here, usually. So it'll surround the head and the torso. It might extend to the hands. And typically, there is a green energy. There may be other colors, but green will always either be in this area or the eyes will be green, energetically. An angel, big surprise, they'll have wings. It is true, the angels are winged. So, seeing wings on a person doesn't always mean they're an angel, and some angels don't have wings, but it is generally a very good indicator. So they will have wings. The wings could have any kind of appearance, and there could be a lot of them. Another thing is that you would look around the head, and the energy of the god they serve is readily apparent at the crown chakra. That is what an angel looks like. A Metatron is similar, but their energy is like enormous. So big. A prophet is a bit like a muse, where there's not like a real... There's no thing in the energy that's like, they're a prophet. Uh, any indicator would be kind of above the head here. And you may also notice an energy in an area related to the way that they inspire. So if they sing, it'll be the voice or mouth. If they write or do art, it'll be the hands. It might be there might be something about the eyes or the feet. So muses and prophets are a bit similar in that way. Prophets, they don't have like the green energy. Green is related to the power of inspiration. Prophets have more of this open feeling or emptiness where they're able to take in. And you might see other signs or like the energy of whoever is expressing themselves through the prophet in the upper half of the energy. A priest or priestess, typically the person knows they're a priest or priestess because it kind of involves an active relationship with the deity, but this is something that can be apparent in the auras of the other types of beings I've mentioned, especially angels, but there is a silver ring in the energy, and that just denotes closeness, like being important to a higher power, like having that close relationship and that connection. The appearance of silver. I will address the comments in a moment. Agents of providence, they're not like servants per se or anything. They're just kind of like, they kind of act in accordance with the will of a higher power, frequently unknowingly, so they're kind of just probably look normal. If you want to know if that person was being inspired to act by a higher power, you could probably look at their energy in context to that moment and see some kind of energetic influence in the outer aura. A god has gold in their energy somewhere, typically here or on the outer ring. Gods are as unique as people, so other than that, there's no one thing that really picks them out. They tend to have huge energy. They tend to attract others. They also have a pretty strong effect on people, but really, just the gold is really one of the few sure things to pick them out. If someone is being possessed or ridden by a deity, you should be able to see that person, the deity's energy in the person's aura, and the aura will look distinctly different or feel very different than it does the rest of the time. So those are some signs. We have a comment from Desiree. Let's see. She's describing some phenomena she's experiencing. What you're expressing seems within the realm of what I would consider abilities everyone has. So being able to sense energy and see spirits and seeing people's energy is what the outline is, and dreams of deja vu or potentially visions of the future, that would kind of fall under like intuition, clair abilities, mediumship, prophetic dreams, and so on. So based on that alone, I don't know that that is divinely inspired, but that's just a logical deduction. All right, so that's just my experience and what I know about this. I hope this was interesting to all. If you'd like to see more content like this, please like, follow, or subscribe to my page or channel on Facebook. That is Lysander Xanthus Clairvoyant Psychic. I'm also on YouTube, Instagram, and Patreon. For more information about me and to support the creation of content like this, please visit patreon.com/freedomdreamcoaching. The link to that's in the description of the video. You can also visit my Facebook page for more information about me and more content. So thank you for watching, and I always enjoy hearing from you guys. My inbox is open if you need advice or an opinion about something. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. Be blessed.